Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the outskirts of Stillwater. There's a lot of remnants left behind from the past. For example, beat up trailers, fruit crates. Wow. This trailer is pretty old. Hell, it might be from the 1970s. Who knows? There's a lot of debris scattered around here. We have another trailer. There's a lot of ranches out near Stillwater. So it's important when you come to a place like this that you stop and you explore these type of places. There's music playing. I don't know what the music is. It's an old outhouse. Wow. Maybe not an old outhouse, I don't know. Patriotic music. Nice. What better than when the sun's coming up to listen to patriotic music? I'm starting to think it's coming from that trailer. Wow. There's canned goods. Look at this. A plate. This is crazy. Whoever lived here really, I mean, there's drawers, there's coolers. We got this trailer here too. The old record player. Oh my God. Big boots. A bottle of booze, clothes, old toaster. Yeah, this is the rip curtains. This has Backwoods Creepy all written over. Look, you can even see me in it. We're back outside. These must be the barns or the workshops or chicken coops, or I don't know what you want to call them, but Tammy's like, you sure nobody's staying here? Well, it sure doesn't look like anybody's been here in a while. I mean, come on. Friggin' crock pot, man. This is crazy, dude. But this is the early remnants of Stillwater. And if you really want to visit Stillwater and you really want to do it, you got to walk around. You got to look around, man. This is not a place that you can rush. Look at this. I mean, this is a junkyard of items left behind from the past. Lucky for me, there's no rattlesnakes out this time of year, so I can walk through desert brush and say, ha ha, no snake gonna bite me. Look at this. It's an old head frame, chicken cooping, head frame from mining. Wow. Welcome to the Wild West, ladies and gentlemen. Just wow. Let's try to go down here and see if we can get some close-up pictures of some of the structures. This is actually quite amazing. I mean, when you really look at it as an entirety, I mean, this is a part of history we're looking at right here. This is rough. It's a high desert. Even though it's a very fruitful land, it's very as you can see, overgrown back here. I mean, there's even, look at that, a kayak. Wow. You gotta kind of work your way down. Look at this. These are like old poker chips, man. Wow. This is amazing. This is just so amazing. Irons. Everything's dilapidated, you know. Old outhouses. Wow. This is early remnants of a ranch up in Stillwater. Our first ranch, so obviously I'm going to do a walkthrough and make it as special for you guys as it is for me. I don't like walking through this thick brush. There's like nails sticking up everywhere. But wow, this place is just amazing. Anyways, we'll be back with more footage. Give me a few moments to take some photos as the Lord directs. You can see a bunch of old bottles. Look at this. Kettles, pots and pans, books. See what kind of books? Second Nature of the Man Who Counts. I have not heard of these books. Look, a little lamp. Wow. Try to walk through here and let's see. Look at that. And go right out the wall. Wow. Holy crap. I just walked on that boat, man, and that kayak and everything. My foot almost went through, but this is it. This is our first ranch in Stillwater. Stillwater was a ranching community. And in 1862, they decided to irrigate the area because there's a lot of lakes and things. There's a lot of lakes, streams, and rivers. And so this lush farmland used to supply the Comstock of Virginia City and the miners with food. They would grow their food here. Mining did occur up in the mountains. They had mining districts, but they were small mines. And I don't know, I'll try to show you guys real quick where these mines are, but they're, keep in mind, you know, 15 miles away. There's pants scattered. Look at this, the jars. But the ranches produced food. The food was shipped out. They had the railroad in Fallon, Central Pacific, I believe. All the mining districts in the Stillwater Range are up at the base of the mountains you see right there. And that, I believe, is Job Peak. It's one of the highest peaks. Almost 9,000 feet in the 70-mile Stillwater Range. You have a lot of tires. If you guys notice, I'm also doing EVPs. There's obviously some energy. I mean, you have ranches dating back from the 1800s, and you have to keep an eye out for them because they are abandoned, and they are worth checking into or at least investigating, which is what I'm doing. And I want to do a historical study on the town, but at the same time, you know, I want to look for some EVPs, some ghostly entities, you know, that sort of thing. We know they exist. You know, it's a matter of if they want to talk. A lot of giant cottonwood trees are very popular in the Lahontan Valley. And give you a little bit of history, but I'll give you a more in-depth history once we get to Stillwater, because there's a pretty long in-depth story. This area dates back to 2,000 to 3,000 BC. The Shoshone and the Paiute, before this was ranch land, used these lands to hunt. Right here that you see in Stillwater, downtown Stillwater is just up the road. One of our first stops, about to head out of here. Check out our site for more pictures, history, and expeditions like these at www.paranormalghostsociety.org. We're almost in downtown Stillwater, which is just up ahead, a mile or two. You have this brick house. It's not even that old, and it's fenced off and abandoned, and windows are broke. But this I've seen on Google Maps. So I was going to check this out. I will survive. What do you think this was, man? A barn?
There's like a Pepsi bottle in there.
A throwing star.
Hey! Hey!
What?
That's a lot of crap in there.
You're walking, there's nails sticking out of those boards.
Yes, I know. Almost, but I didn't, did I? I want my picture with this barn. Definitely. This is classic. It's kind of creepy that all this is abandoned, huh? All these farms out here. It's kind of fun because you can explore them, you know? I mean, this thing's barely holding up. Wow. See anything good out the window? Vast ranch land. They used to grow a lot. They grow alfalfa now. Hey, I was gonna say, I'm gonna get a picture here. Jared, you want to take my pic? You're pretty good. But they used to grow alfalfa, and then they started growing other foods. And now it's this is pretty dilapidated. So what's left is what's left. This house collapsed. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. This is a stable, ladies and gentlemen. You can see they would put the animals, they would hook them on. You can see the hooks. These were hooks. They probably had fencing or gates. Wow. This place feels like it's gonna fall apart, man. Wow. Jared, what are you doing? He's trying to scare me. Look, they got this one roped off, but here I just opened the doors, man. Just left the stables. We found this old watering well. It's pretty cool. That's history right there, man. You know some horses drank out of that at one time or another. You can see the pipe where the water fed into it. Beautiful Stillwater mountains. Come on. Doesn't get better than this. Those are covered in snow. About another month, those will be all covered in snow. Anyways, this is Lord Rick. We've hit ranch number 2 in Stillwater. We're going to keep on moving. Lots more places to see. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm driving down a dirt road. Most of the roads on to these ranches are dirt roads. That's the, oh, I can't really see it. Tammy's window's down. But you can kind of see we're going to pass by a large portion of the thermal plant. It turns back to concrete. Some of it's not good. That's a private road. Let's see, I can get it through the windows. You can kind of see it. See the pipes? And then the plant. They harness the hot springs in the area for thermal energy. It's quite unique how they do it. It's getting cloudy. I expect, well, it's clearing up down there, but we might get a little rain. It was raining back west, so we went about 60, 70 miles, and here we are in the middle of nowhere. Now, this place should be on the left side, unless it's inhabited, because you never know. Here's a good view of the thermal energy plant. Here, let's see if you can.
That's where this takes you to, is to the
here,
plant.
open your window. I'll get it. There you go, guys. There's also more behind it when we went around it, but that's the main building of the plant. So we're going. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of ranches. You got to know which ones are abandoned, which ones are left behind, and which ones are inhabited. When you see fresh alfalfa and hay, look at that. I want to show you guys something. Because you can take pictures of from the road of the cars and all the...
Take a black one and get that car.
Wow, that's sweet. Sweet, sweet. I'd gotten out. You can actually hear the thermal plant. And if you go behind that building, there's... I don't know if there's solar panels or energy panels, but there's like 1,000 of them, man. But this is part of the ghost house. This is like an old cabin right here you're looking at, right by the geothermal plant. Wow. This area, folks, is considered the Carson City Slough. It's basically where the Carson River spreads out into various tributaries and canals and drains off into marshland and lakes. But you can see it right here. And this is old. I mean, you know, you're dealing with, not all buildings are old, but like, for example, some pretty old wood buildings. We're almost downtown Stillwater. I mean, you can see there's just a lot of trailer. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna cross the road because there's a historic plaque. Like, for example, you know, I'm processing of alfalfa. Here you go. Let's give you a brief history. Stillwater. Stillwater's beginning predates Nevada's Adventist statehood by 2 years. Named for the large pools of tranquil water nearby, the town originated as an overland station in 1862. It was granted a post office in 1865, became Churchill's third county seat in 1868. Farmers developed one of the state's first irrigation systems to supply booming to mining camps with produce, like up in the Comstock of Virginia City. The community population peaked in 1880, and when the county seat was removed to Fallon in 1904, barely 3 dozen residents remained. Its boom was in 1880, reached its peak. In the 1870s or 60s, it was about 152 to 200 people. The National Wildlife Refuge of 22,000 acres of wetland habitat, natural breeding and feeding grounds for waterfowl was created in 1948. The Stillwater Indian Reservation adjoins the reserve. Although their community center has disappeared, the valley's lush fields and abundant crops attest to the entire efforts of Stillwater's pioneers and their descendants in the deserts. Pardon me with the wind. The desert's challenge with dedication and determination to those who survived and those who did not. We pledge our remembrance. There are graves on the side of the road. The weather's getting really nasty out here. Now, normally, see, it's almost winter, but in the spring, everything you see around me, you see how it's brown? You see how the trees have no leaves? Well, when it comes spring and summer, this is all lush green farmland. And up the road, there's at least 12, 13 lakes. And if you go up north, there's another 12, 13 lakes. And if you go south, you head towards this way, there's another 3, 4 lakes. So there is a lot more history. I'm going to go more in depth with our history later on. There are some other things like the post office closed and reopened like 3 times. you know, so the town had its boom. So all the mining districts were along the Stillwater Mountains, which you see off in the distance. Not even close remote to town. But a lot of trailers, a lot of abandoned structures. Hopefully we'll get to check them out all. Anyways, this is Lord Rick of the Paranormal and Ghost Society. There's a lot of cattle and horses grazing. I've noticed that. And then if you look around, sometimes, like, I went down some of these side roads and I seen old wagons, just very old wagons. And you have even some older houses. Look at that. Cows, cattle grazing. If you look here. Very old wood shack. It's just, this is history. This is history. Anyways, we've reached Stillwater. This is Lord Rick. This area is so overgrown. I've had to walk through brush just to get to it. But I just wanted to show you. You have a down telephone pole. Tends to be a lot of abandoned things hidden up in the brush. I've seen it on Google Maps, so all part of ranch, and there's a lot of things hidden up in the brush that no longer exist today. Lots of other wood boards. Some of this, there's a lot of collapsed structures like that in here, like a wood table. I wanted to show you something out here. A lot of turned over tables and debris. There was actually a lot of different things that were out here at one time. You know, this town, I mean, look, there's a jacuzzi. This town once had even a swimming pool and an ice cream parlor and a movie theater. Downtown looks totally different than what it is today. Oh, look. Look at that. This is that stone slab that we're talking about. One of them, there's a few of them that have minerals and gemstones all embedded in it. Wow. Look at that. Foundations and everything back here. This is truly amazing. This is remarkable. If you want to look in here or look over here, this is part of an old foundation. These are remnants of the town. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Hope I don't find no skeletons back here. Jesus. Anyways, we'll keep you up to date. Some old lines. Anyways, this is Lord Rick, downtown Stillwater. This may be one of the oldest structures in all of Stillwater. There's a lot of people that have trailers, small houses. You also see a lot of collapsed type of buildings. One lady had contacted me. She's like, "Can I help you?" I wasn't even on her property, and she goes, "Oh, you're just taking pics." I'm like, "Yeah." And it is a ghost town. That's kind of what people do when they're off-roading and just exploring. They're gonna take pics. Lots of pics of this town. but not extensively and not inside. So we might be one of the first groups to actually just put some really in-depth content of this ghost town on your site. But it's time to get back in the truck. It's getting windy, it's getting cold. There's snow on the mountains. I don't know if you guys can see it. I could probably get a better shot for you, but you can see there is snow on those mountains. And it's brisk. Downtown Stillwater, at least what's left of it. Wow, unbelievable. We're in the old historic section of Stillwater. I actually found it. And I just wanted to go over a timeline. 2,000 to 3,000 BC, the Shoshone and the Paiutes arrived in the region. Very lush land to hunt, fish, live off the wetlands. In 1862 it was founded for farming. Multiple districts in Stillwater, up in the Stillwater Range, which is to the east, did some mining. There are mining districts. 1865 came the post office. Eventually in 1868 it held the legislature, made it the county seat of Churchill County. 1870 the post office closed. 1877 Stillwater revived. At that time it had almost reached its peak in 1880. It had a hotel, saloons, a theater, an ice house, a restaurant, a hay yard, a school, a courthouse. For thousands of years the Paiutes and the Shoshone called this home. They called it the Carson Sink home, actually. And they used the marsh plants to their advantage. 1860s is when the white man had arrived, and they had forced a lot of the Shoshone and Paiutes into about 60 acres piece of land, and eventually putting them on reservations. After the Civil War, the Central Overland of California and Pikes Peak Express Company was a forerunner for the Pony Express. They built a mail and stage station around the stagnant water, which you've seen downtown. And of course from there it grew. Because of the stagnant water, they named it Stillwater, which makes sense. J.C. Scott was the first to settle here in the autumn of 1862, and then a spring later everyone else followed, because he was a very successful farmer and other ranchers wanted a piece of the pie. This land is very green in the spring. Farmers built the irrigation, the canals, fences, irrigation ditches that you see, all that we drove along, took pictures, and it connected the Humboldt and the Carson Sinks together. And you can see there's more. There's more abandoned buildings. Sorry, I was zoomed in. But that's kind of creepy, that hanging thing. The wood here was quite difficult to obtain. So you can see, I mean, you could find some up in the mountains, but the pine and cedar were hauled from the Silver Hill Ridge area, and then other freight wagons from Wadsworth, wood was also hauled. In 1861, Churchill County was formed, and of course when Nevada was still a territory, not even a state. The first provisional county seat was Bucklands and Buckland Station, which we've already done, and it moved to the town of La Plata, which I would also like to do. In 1870, due to two things, a plague of grasshoppers came through this area, because this is ranch land, and the water became contaminated from the mills along the river with mercury. It basically caused a lot of hardships for the town. I mean, the water was no good. It wasn't good for the plants, the grasshoppers. Then there was the white winter of 1889 and 90 I was talking about earlier. It was the worst records on winter. It basically buried this town. Whole herds of cattle were lost in the snow, while explosion and starvation killed many more. Droughts and floods were very common in this area. I mean, it has a little bit of a dark history. In fact, one of the floods was blamed for escape of 3 prisoners. I believe they were 3 ranchers, and they built it in the basement of the courthouse, but it was a mud basement. So it was a one-room courthouse, 16 by 24, built in 1869. All it was a hole. They throw the guys in there. So when the floods came in, the jail was buried under 2 or more feet of water, 3 feet of water. And these ranchers made the decision to survive, and they escaped jail out of fear for their lives. They were thieves, and I mean, I think that the sheriff had let it go. It's understandable. Farming didn't revive till 1877, and the town survived in a school. The school was a 12 by 24 foot building. It's had about 30 students, was erected in 1871, and the school was held in the courthouse. I don't know right now where the school is. I kind of feel stupid, but look how vast it is. I could drive down all these roads and still not find it, you know. I'm local, but I wasn't going to scare her by asking her, hey, where's the school, by the way? They were sitting on their porch. The ice house they used as a second jail when the jail became full. And even though there was 38 people, you still had stores, you had saloons. And of course, one of the more unusual occurrences in the area ultimately became the death of a prospector. His name was Kellogg. The old man kept to himself, lived in the hills, probably the Shoshone Mountains, who knows. But he came to town every couple of weeks for supplies. This is where it gets mystery. One time, he didn't arrive. Many of the citizens were worried. They sent a search party. He was sitting against a tree, frozen to death. His remains were brought to the courthouse to thaw. They fit him in a coffin, and word spread, and many citizens arrived for that funeral. Right then and there. He was still frozen, so the town had a dance. Check this out. And the mourners danced until this poor man thawed. And then they buried him at the Lawrence Ranch graveyard, which obviously I don't have access to the ranch, but there are some private ranches that have graves. And in 1907, there was a great flood. Destroyed most of the town. It left the valley underwater, which I'm standing at. Earthquakes in the 1930s and 50s, as I talked about earlier. Even though there was no injuries, there were things that had gotten damaged. It's an old corral. Just walking down that lonely road. You know, this is a part of Old Stillwater. So should we film it and take photos? You bet. When it came to, let's say, when they tore the school down for lumber, the courthouse suffered the same fate as I was saying earlier, and it was used by a nearby ranch, not the courthouse in Fallon. Although the court was moved to Fallon. In the 1890s, the government forced the natives on the reservation. Like I was saying earlier, 60 acres they received, but once again, the white settlers, they wanted the land and demanded the government take back the land from the Paiutes. Total discrimination. Just so you know, I'm very pro-Native American, so I don't agree with it. In the late 1800s, early days of the century, Fred Williams, he was an Indian. I don't know if he was Paiute or Shoshone. He had donated the land for a new school to be built so his children could be educated. The new school was built. Okay, I believe I have a picture of it, which now somebody's living in. Unless that's the wrong building, but it was white and had a green roof like the pictures I've seen. When they built the new school, they did not allow Fred Williams' kids to attend. They said Indian children were not allowed at the school ever. It's wrong. It's a sad story. And as you can see, I'm just kind of getting it out there because I just want to show people we do have hearts in the work that we do. And this is a really amazing site. In 1902, the Indians were offered a new deal. They could give up their 60 acres in exchange for 10-acre parcels, complete with water rights. If they refused, they didn't get any water from the Lahontan Dam. Blackmailed the Indians were resigned to agree. Those who did not never got any water from the dam. So, a lot of racism and discrimination. It wasn't right. They basically forced them to give up their land by denying them water. This water belongs to them. This is their land. And we took it. I didn't take it. But people were greedy back then, and they did horrible things. And here we are standing in Old Stillwater, and you're getting a little bit of dark history too. And it completely looks different. Downtown Main Street had a theater and shops and restaurants and hotel, and now none of that. It's just trailers and abandoned cars and wood buildings falling apart. Present day reservation is about 8,200 acres. You know, they merely lost like 400,000 acres in this area when the white man came to settle. All they wanted was the land. And yeah, it helped the Comstock boom government fed the miners, but it was not fair. It could have been done much differently. And it's home to the Fallon, or some people call it Fallon, Paiute, and Shoshone tribe, known as the Takata, or the Cattail Eaters. In 1990, the tribe won $43 million against the government. And of course, today, very few homes exist. There's a lot of abandoned homes. You just got to find them in farms. I have not found the schoolhouse, but it gives me a reason to return. You know, I spent most of the day enjoying the refuge. And so I don't regret any of that wildlife that I've seen. I think that it's been very beautiful. You have to understand that if you do Stillwater, you also have to do the most ancient area, which is the wetlands, the marshes, the lakes, because that is where these ancient villages resided along there. They hunted, they fished. They spent thousands of years on those old paths that we took today, and so that's the most important part of Stillwater, is the Native American history, not when the white man came and built ranches. This is all from the white man when they came here to build these ranches, you know. But those lakes and marshes have been here for thousands of years and been utilized by the Paiute and the Shoshone Indians. So, beautiful area, beautiful country. I still have a cemetery to visit, so this is Lord Rick. I'm out of here. I'll be back with maybe more footage if I find any other structures or houses. We're in the Churchill County Cemetery. A lot of the residents are from Stillwater. A lot of them are from the Shoshone and Paiute colonies. It is a county cemetery. It's not on the reservation, so we decided to do a videotape of it and read some of the plaques and old graves, and then we're going to head on home. I never found the schoolhouse, but I believe someone bought it up and fixed it up and is living in it. And I never found some of the other, like a few abandoned houses. Maybe they tore those down, but they had a few made of stone, and then they had a few houses that were old wooden homes, and I never found them. But like I say, there's about 60, 70 roads that go back around Stillwater, and any of those houses could be down any of those roads. And once you get on the reservation, you really don't want to trespass. You can take pics from the street, but to go in them probably is not a good idea. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just gonna walk around and take some pictures. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like. Lots of trees, very quaint. This does not look like desert, does it? Until you look at the hill up there, but with the water tower. But this is the finish off our expedition. I also went to the tribal cemetery. It's very creepy. A lot of old wood fences and crosses, a lot of wood epitaphs or grave markers. It's in peril condition. That's why I went and took photos, because a lot of them tribal members had their lands taken away or played a role in Stillwater despite the racism. So we're going to walk over to this plaque, but we're not going to spend much time here. I'm going to get a few pics. I got to get my lunch, to get my evening lunch together so I can eat on the way home. There's basalt, or volcanic rock, I should say. So this was a volcanic area, obviously, at one time. But the old section seems to be like somewhere around here. Yeah, this is the old section. Like right here is old. See right here? So what you want to do, that's all newer. So we only care really much about working with the old section, because those make the best. I mean, those are pretty pictures for websites. Is the old epitaphs have a lot of craftsmanship, and these obviously have nice engravings, I'm sure. So let's see what we got. Oh yeah, beautifully done. I'm going to take a few pictures of these. Anyways, I'm out of here. This might be the last video you hear. Stillwater complete. Looking forward to a second trip in a year or two, and we'll do the rest. We'll see if we can find some other historic buildings around Stillwater's. Like I said, there's like 60 roads around there, and any road can contain an old ranch or homestead. I know I said it'd be my last video. I just want to show you guys. This lovely lady was only 14 years of age. Back then, the yellow fever and Spanish flu hit this region hard. Killed a lot of kids, a lot of teens that went to school, boarding school, like the Stewart Indian School, for example, or like the orphan asylum, Nevada Orphan Asylum, Carson City. The kids died because they had nowhere to, there was no quarantine. 14 years old, 1920 to like 1934. But a lovely angel, the arm's broken off. What are we here to do? Preserve. This is one of the older sections of the cemetery. And we walked all the way back because I just wanted to show Tammy some of the older graves. But we're heading out of here. The sun's about to go down. I just was taking a few last-minute pics of the graves. They don't make them like they used to. Look at that beautiful cross and that etching. Look at that. It's beautiful. They don't make them like that anymore. That's why I enjoy coming to the cemetery. It's not for the ghost. It's for, I mean, it's been fixed. Look, someone cemented it because it was broke. And somebody fixed it. Look at this, everybody. This is deplorable. I mean, not only Native Americans are buried here, but I mean, people that were human beings that lived in the town of Stillwater and ran grocery outlets and saloons and hotels, and they're all buried here. A lot of them are, and their graves are all cracked, you know? It's a shame. It really is. Peace out. We're entering the semi-ghost town of Stillwater. Stillwater resides in the Carson Sink. This is where the Carson River flows through. At one time, however, there was no river. Ancient Lake Lahontan filled this valley that you see and this basin. And we're going to be driving in the middle of the sink. And there's still wetlands left behind, and this is what drew pioneers to the area. This became an Overland station and Pony Express station stage stop. It was an important stop for mail, for goods, because you had 2 to 3 different types of express stations. One would handle the Pony Express for delivering mail. One would be for supplies for the immigrants who would use this place as a stage stop. Now this was also because it's such a fertile area and full of lush land. After the Native Americans left this area, because the Native Americans used the Carson Sink for bird hunting and deer gathering. This is all today ranch land. And they would grow alfalfa, but back in the day, in the minor times, they would raise cattle and crops for the miners at ghost towns like nearby La Plata, White Cloud City, Copper Reed. Well, White Cloud City is Copper Reed. They changed the name. And there's Hercules and Wonder. There's just a lot of ghost towns that are found here. Dixie Valley on the other side of the Stillwater Range. I think I was supposed to turn off there. But now today it's just a ranching community outside Fallon. You're really not going to see too much other than a lot of cottonwood trees, old historic ranches that have been around since mining times. And you have to understand, the one thing you're going to have to understand is that in Nevada, you had towns that are ranching communities dedicated to feeding the miners and supplying some of the local towns with livestock and crops, while you had the major towns were mining centers. So the two worked kind of hand in hand together. You had to feed the miners. They worked hard in the mines. They all brought their families. They were pioneers from across the country and sometimes overseas, right off the boat into Nevada, trying to make a living. But out here is a wildlife refuge. Thousands, millions of birds. They say a few million birds a year come here to roost. And it was drying up, but it's been a less mild winter. There's more precipitation. Therefore, with the snow and rain we've had, the Carson Sink, once again, and the wetlands that are found in it, will be a sanctuary for the birds. You can see a whole flock of birds. These birds are all coming back from the south because it's warming up. It's supposed to be a near 60-degree day today. Now, while this town rose up or sprung up in around 1862, 1863, it also had a school, a restaurant, a hay barn, or some area where at the station where, you know, they would grow the alfalfa and then supply the hay to the horse wagons. But yeah, it had restaurants, saloons. It was more of a town than it is a ranching community today. I mean, downtown of Stillwater's really gone. There's only a few buildings and remnants of the past. There's an area up here you'll get to see, which is this is what's supposed to be downtown Stillwater. Of course, downtown no longer exists. People built homes over businesses. There's a few dilapidated structures, which were probably general stores or important sites relevant to the history of the town. But I've been all backing through these streets, and there are some nice jewels. You can find some nice jewels back in here if you explore some of the side streets of Stillwater. But this is downtown Stillwater right here. You can see there's an abandoned structure. There's a lot of abandoned structures. A lot. And this town boasted a post office. It had hotels. Like I said, a school. Stores. It had a hay yard, an ice house. And Carson Sink station, which was a Pony Express station found here, was just made out of adobe. And then they had the Overland route. And what drew settlers to areas, this was it had a plentiful supply of water. Now we're not going to focus on Stillwater. We've already done an exploration of what we could out here. But what we're going to do is we're going to head to the Stillwater Mountains, which are pretty much about, I'd say about 10 miles ahead of us. And what you're going to see, and I'll zoom on in, that pointed peak you see, or triangular-like peak, it's called Joe Peak. To the right of it, you kind of see how it's flat right there where the pole just intersected. That's Tabletop Mountain, or Table Mountain as they call it. Peak next to it, that kind of goes downhill a little, Shaley Mountain. And then to your right, straight ahead, is Lincoln, I believe. And then to your right, kind of, you can't really see it. Behind the trees are Slaughter Peaks. And I may have gotten them, I may have gotten one or two off. They're all next to one another if you look on a map. The Stillwater Range was home to the Native Americans for thousands of years. If you go to the top of the range, there is some forest. There's the Toyabe National Forest on top. And so perfect areas for the Native Americans to hunt. You know, in the summer months they might brave the mountains a little more, and in the winter months they might come down here in the valley to the Carson Sink to hunt for birds or gather. The temperatures would definitely be a lot warmer than up at the top of those mountains. But we're on Stillwater Road, and this is all Stillwater. When I get to the end of the road, it splits off. I can go to the ghost town of La Plata and Mountain Wells. They're two little mining settlements. Or I can go to my left, and if you look below Job Peak, you go a few miles past Job Peak, following it, and below it's White Cloud City or Copperreed. It's pretty cool. Nobody's out here. It's going to turn to a dirt road soon. You can kind of see what it looks like out here. And if you, that was very pretty, but if you go on the other side of those mountains right there, there's Dixie Valley. And a few months ago I was in Dixie Valley, and you're not going to believe what I encountered. I found near some abandoned ranch. There's a bunch of abandoned ranches. It was a ranching community, sister community to Stillwater. But near a ranch, I found some odd tracks. They were monster tracks, something with 3 claws, dinosaur-like. And also, when I was out in Dixie Valley, right before sundown, I literally seen a scarecrow, a stuffed scarecrow, move 25 to 30 feet. It was on one side of this They had these military vehicles, abandoned military vehicles, and it was on the one side, and I went to gather the gear, turned my back, and it was about 30 feet pinned to the fence. That thing was walking around, and I went up to it, it was just sponge and stuffing. I'm like, okay, that's pretty creepy. And I'm not the only one who witnessed it. All three of my other family members witnessed it too, and they pointed it out. They're like, Rick, the scarecrow just moved. So this is a really strange area, and I look forward to hopefully maybe finding some ghosts that haunt these abandoned boom towns. And I also hope we can discover maybe some strange tracks up in some of these canyons we're going. If not tracks, maybe we'll get a good UFO video or good UFO pictures. So desolate out here, you just don't know. Off to the Stillwater Mountains on a road less taken. We're still heading down the road. It's gotten a little narrower, a little more desolate. You can see there's some cattle out here. That's the prime source. Alfalfa and cattle are prime industry in the Stillwater area. As we continue to head towards the mountains eastbound, because that's what this road will take us to, is almost the base of these mountains. Then we'll start heading north along the bottom of them until we reach to our right about a 2-mile dirt road that'll take us into the ghost town of White Cloud City, also known as Copperreed. And there's upper Copperreed and lower. Obviously the upper is the mining and industrial section where there was mills. And the lower section would be where the post office and businesses and homes were. Miners would live below town. Trek their way up a mile or two up the canyon via horse or ox wagon to work in the mines. It's just the way it was back in the day. And you can see here, this looks like the old, yeah, this is the old schoolhouse in Stillwater, I believe. Let's see if I can get a better video without that. There we go. A lot of historic gems back in here. It might be the middle of nowhere, but these schools and churches and old historic sites and cabins existed over 100 years ago. And people lived here, and now most of these places are abandoned and forgotten, and it's our job to kind of preserve them and keep people out there traveling and exploring places like these, so that they last another 100, 200, 300 years for generations to come.
Yeah. What is that? Oh, it's hot springs. It's hot springs.
Let me go look real quick. No, it's just the heat. It's 38 and the water's warm. It's creating steam. Water's warmer than what it is outside. Or the opposite way. Could go either way, right? You know, we're not just a paranormal group, but we're an urban exploration group. And so, you know, we like to see what these places look like outside and inside. Oh yeah, nice little homestead. And this probably goes with Stillwater. However, you know, we'll integrate it into our ghost town update, since, I mean, we're basically in the edge of the wilderness here and just about out of Stillwater. This place is all in itself. A lot of, oh yeah. Definitely a lot of rat defecation. Try not to breathe. Oh, man. This is nasty. Ladies? Haha. Well, the old schoolhouse is next door. I'm wondering if this was like teachers, faculty, ladies, men, had a little kitchen. Looks like whoever lives down here was here. I had to go out the back window because even though this doesn't sit on their property, you know, people protect these sites and watch them well, and they may think that my intent here is not pure, but it is. You know, I just want to show you what kind of an old teacher's faculty or ranching cabin might look like out here in the Stillwater Mountains, and this would be it. Pikes Peak Express and the Central Overland Station were very mainstream. This is, I was wrong, the outskirts, this is downtown Stillwater, or what's left of downtown. Like I said, I've done some of these cabins and abandoned places, so that building I just did was part of Stillwater. Maybe I didn't see it last time. I could have sworn I've already explored it once. But it's a pretty cool little cabin. It gives you an idea of what the cabins or homes look like up here. These used to be, some of these buildings were businesses back here. Some of these places were shops. And they date back, there's a couple buildings that date back to the early 1900s, which are in deplorable condition, but still part of the history of the area of Stillwater. In 1868, Stillwater retained a county seat for Churchill County. What happened was, once Fallon came to be, and Fallon's a pretty big city in central northern Nevada, it kind of consumed everything. Because Fallon had the train coming through, they could export goods, import goods. Railroad didn't come through these little towns. And when the mining was depleted and there was no railroad, they either died or they transformed into these ranching communities you see here. So you have to understand that a lot of towns like Stillwater, once they lost the county seat and their post office and everything else, they basically became semi-ghost towns or abandoned. And as you can see, I mean, that's supposed to be a creek. That's dry. That's dry. So you start off our morning with an abandoned place. Got Joe Peak right here in front. And now that we're past all the ranches, we're going to hit nothing but wilderness. There's multiple waterways, canals, ponds, wetlands, lakes. It's a wildlife refuge. We've been hiking back in here. There's a couple hiking trails and such in these wetlands, but everything seems to be dry. I'm taking it they didn't get a very wet winter out this way. It is northern Nevada, it is desert, and eventually all the wetlands and lakes are going to disappear. I've seen them. But now we have nothing up ahead but mountains, as you can see. And eventually dirt road. There's not going to be any more ranches or businesses. Actually, you're about to hit the dirt road now. It's going to be a trek up there. You got about 20 miles down a dirt road. They lost the county seat, I believe, in the early 1900s, maybe 1904. And that's why Stillwater had died out. You can see Stillwater National Wildlife Refuge. They have pelicans and bald eagles, waterfowl, geese, which migrate here. Stillwater Marsh, marshland. But this is the real deal. Now we're heading towards the mountains. This is a dirt road. It'll keep heading east. Eventually it'll veer to the left or north, and then follow the mountains. And then there's dirt roads that go up in all the canyons, and a lot of these canyons have mill remnants, mines, things of that sort, little mining camps and ghost towns, and that's where we're heading. It's definitely beautiful country here, and we're going to be we're going to be hiking up in the Stillwater Range and exploring. Roads aren't too bad back here. A lot of accessible ghost towns. If you take this back way along the mountains, you can hit the old mining town of Lovelock. It's a pretty good sized town today. The mining's long gone. actually about 20-30 miles south of this ghost town. If you continue to follow those mountains around past the Carson Sink, you'll hit the cave of the red-haired giants. These red-haired giants were as tall as 11 to 12 feet tall. They ate the natives. They were here 10,000 or more years ago. When the natives arrived, they were trying to coexist in peace with these creatures, and they were stealing the men and women and bringing them back to the cave and basically sucking the marrow out of their bones, using them as a food subsistence, because food out here is kind of, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to find food. The natives knew how to hunt for birds and deer, but I don't think these creatures, these giants, were that sophisticated. I think that they seen the encroachment of other men moving in on their territory and were like, you know, we'll just eat these people. We'll just dine on them. They found evidence that marrow was sucked out of the bone. They found skulls, they found bones, and the Native Americans are like, it's a tribe of ours. But really, what it comes down to is the Native Americans who claimed the bones. They're the ones that blocked the entrance with sagebrush. Then they lit it on fire, smoked and killed them all. Anyone that ran, any giant that ran out, they put arrows in, while the other ones died of suffocation or smoke inhalation. And so if the red-haired giants are in this valley between these two mountains around the other end, then these giants probably were very native to this whole Carson Sink area. We're in the Carson Sink. And the giants were probably found up all through the Stillwater range, more than likely. And there's probably some hidden caves with bones of other giants. Giants were real mainstream in Nevada. There's a lot of stories and legends and even some evidence. And so we're heading to an unknown country. I mean, like I said, I've found weird tracks. There's giant skeletons that have been found out here, UFOs. A lot of these mines and ghost towns along this range are haunted. I had the Scarecrow incident. Just a lot of paranormal and X-Files shit going on here. It's vast. We're in an expanse. You got the Truckee Mountains over here. You can barely see them. You'll see them better from when I get up to White Cloud and it looks down across the expanse. And then it's really, we're going to get some really good video and pictures of Lord Rick.